Thank you all very much for coming. Sorry in advance for all mistakes that are going to be made. And this is, I'm hoping to have an interactive session where we can go over together. I honestly, in full transparency, I finished the slides 10 minutes ago. So we're going to improvise. But those are the best ones. We're going to have fun either in a very good way or in a very bad way. I also would like, well, I'll get to there in a second. So just the talk, I should have chosen a smaller title because I realize it's too big. But anyway, we're going to be talking about Python, Python in the browser, and the things that we've learned over the last couple of years. And some surprising things that come with executing Python in the browser, and hopefully with some meaningful use cases and examples. So, first of all, this is actually a Python app running on the browser. If you want to get the slides, you can scan your QR code. It should load in most phone browsers. If it doesn't, change your phone. But a couple of examples will not run in the mobile browsers for some reason that I will explain later. But this is one of the cool things about Python in the browser. You can actually run things in anywhere a browser can. So we didn't realize when we launched Piscript that that would be the case. So after some time, this guy right here in the front texted me and was like, look, I bought a Tesla, and I'm running Piscript and Python in my Tesla. And that was a pretty cool demo. But you can run on TVs, you can run on other devices that run a browser, which is pretty dope. That link that you scanned should direct you to a Piscript app running on Piscript.com. You see on the bottom should have this link here, and you can access the slides and the code. Perfect, it works. I will be cleaning the slides after this because it's a mess, but you should be able to see everything in real time. As my teammates will say, Fabio writes really bad code at first, so you have the full experience. So a little bit about me real quick. I'm a mess in terms of nationality. I'm half Brazilian, half Italian, American, etc. And a Pythonista. I've been in the community for a long time. Did some things that I'm very proud of, like founding PyCon Italy and starting the PyCon Italia conferences. And together with an amazing group of people, helping with the EuroPython Society and other things. Right now, I'm at Anaconda. I'm a software architect at the AI, R&D, and Innovation Group. And this year, I've been nominated the Ambassador of Fun and Professional Clown. So if you want to have a beer later and have fun, join us, and we'll have a chat. This is the time where I usually spend time getting to know the audience and, talking a little bit more about your experience with Python, the things that you've been doing, etc. Because I didn't try my slides and my talk, I will skip that part because I'm worried about the time. But we'll try this experiment, and we're going to learn. How many of you are Italian, actually? Good. That should be easy for you. So everyone else will be learning a little bit of Italian hand gestures, right? So I need your help on, if you think I'm running too fast, how would you signal to me that I'm running too fast in Italian? Chill. Exactly. If you think I'm boring and you need me to move on, okay, boring, and I need to move on, or like this, exactly. Or if you think I'm saying nonsense, how would you say? Steady. Exactly. So do your best to help me, and I'll help you with the talk, right? So, and everyone that helps me with the talk, I have some cute stickers. If you like stickers, and I'll throw the stickers at you. I also have stickers. I'll drop some bobby pins. and stickers and other things that ask if you like the project and you want to support. There are stickers about Piscript, Beware, and other projects that Anaconda does. It's also a good time and opportunity to thank Anaconda for allowing me and the team to be here, sponsoring travels and everything, and sponsoring the project. It's a full open source project, and we spent a lot of money to try and help the community. And we do the same with a lot of other things, like Numba, SciPy, NumPy, Conda, and a bunch of Beware, a bunch of other, the Spy, and other things as well. All right. So one really quick word about PyCon Italy. It's really important to me. I've been organizing for PyCon Italy for many years, and we started in 2007, and that was an important year because, well, first, it was the first time running a conference, and we didn't know what we were doing, and we messed up, and we also had to pay money. We were at a loss. So we put, each one of the founders put $300 to pay the debt that we had, 200, inflation. I never seen that money, by the way. Lorenzo or Matteo, whoever is the treasurer, Alan and I are waiting for our money. JK, put on the beer budget. But it was also a very important year to me because my son was turning 1 year old at the conference. I couldn't find the picture where I was holding him on my shoulders, but this is him now. And he's this big guy, 192 meters, and you know, this is how much our conference has grown. This year we have above 1,000 people, and this is amazing. So thank you very much for everyone that came here and are building this community in Italy. We're one of the biggest conferences in Europe and in the world, and we should be very proud of it. So thank all the organizers, thank you for being here. All right, what is Piscript? I will try to run over this part. If you think I'm running, signal, and we'll go with it. So Piscript is a platform that allows Python to run in the browser. A platform, the difference between a platform and a framework, in our terms at the team at least, a framework allows you to write applications on top of that framework. So you can run applications on top of it. A platform is a software system that allows you to build frameworks on top of it and run apps as well. So Piscript is a fully pluggable architecture that allows you to run Python in the browser using either Pyodide or MicroPython as interpreter. We also have support for, I'm going to trip on this at some point. So allows you to run other things as well. We support R and a couple of other things experimentally. If you're interested in that, maybe you try it out. But we're mostly focused on Python. It has a powerful FFI, foreign function interface, that allows you to interact between Python and JavaScript and vice versa. That is provided by the upstream layer, either Pyodide or MicroPython, but we do some conveniency around them to make it easier for users. It's extensible via JavaScript, and it really tries to focus on humans. We really try to keep the API small, the interface small, so that you focus on your code, you focus on the problems that you're trying to solve. And all you need is just a browser. Why Piscript? So anyone has any idea why would you like to run Python in the browser? Just a couple of ideas real quick. JavaScript is a pain in the ass. iPhones, yes, and yes, and documentation examples, yes. That's one thing that we didn't think at the beginning. You said? Demos for clients, yes, perfect. Anything else? Teach Python, yes. Almost all of those were reasons behind it, but the original ones. So limited support, Python had limited support for mobile and web. There's a great talk about Russell Keith McGee around the future of Python a few PyCons ago, a keynote. I highly recommend it. He talks about that. The Python community needs to be prepared for the future of computing, and it's probably not on the desktop. It's on mobile devices and things like this. Distributing Python is difficult. And simple is better than complex. So programming is complicated. Python makes programming fun. Software architecture is complicated as well. You think about an idea, you start programming, and then you realize, oh, I need a database, I need compute, I need storage, I need this, I need that. And then it becomes not fun anymore again. I personally hate infrastructure, DevOps, all those things, even if I was architect for that part of Anaconda for a couple of years, because it should just work, right? It should just provide you. Antonio's laughing like, oh, he probably said something like, he also didn't do a good job, by the way. I agree. But distributed architectures are interesting, and that's one of the reasons of Piscript as well. If you can run Python in the browser, you can imagine that as an isolated computing block that you can move around and ship somewhere and communicate. And honestly, it's also really cool, right? Just for the sake of it. So that's why we started Piscript. A really quick rundown on how it works, or a comparison between other type of classic Python architectures, right? You as a user, you start from an idea, you think about your requirements, you need infrastructure, then you need to install on your infrastructure, and you implement your thing, and then you need to package it and distribute it, blah, 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 blah. So classic ways, you build your thing for native OS. So you build a package, you build everything, or you just freeze it, and then you have your Python running on your user's machine with the caveats of having access to the underlying system. And now you have security issues. You have other things to think about. Or you go with the classic, I would just gonna write a web application in Python. That usually means you write Django, you write on top of Fast API and other things, and then your Python code runs on your servers, and then you have to deal with JavaScript and other things to run in the browser, and that's usually that architecture here in the bottom. Piscript is this one here. You basically write your code, you ship it, and it runs on your user's browser. A couple of interesting side effects is that the browser nowadays is really a VM, allowing you to isolate where your Python code is running from the user machine. So way less, how do you say? Sorry? No overhead, way less surface for threats or security issues. If you have CVEs and other things around, especially like OpenSSL and other packages that are known for security flaws, well, those don't impact your underlying system. They stay in the browser, which is pretty cool. And we go over other side effects as well. And actually, it turns out that there's a lot of flexibility running Python in the browser. It runs everywhere the browser runs. So you don't have to really think how I'm going to package my thing for Windows or for Linux or for an IoT device or anything. Beware is actually a very interesting project. Who here knows about Beware? Oh, wow, 10 people more or less. You should really look out for Beware. It's a Python platform, probably, that allows you to write Python code and ship with native applications for iOS, for desktops, for the browser itself. It runs browser things with Piscript. So it's really interesting. And one thing that we're experimenting with is you can write actually Piscript applications and then freeze them or ship them pretty much like an Electron app with their project called Positron, right? So really interesting, and you should check it out. MicroPython and IoT, actually really cool, interesting use cases. We didn't realize when we shipped Piscript that, well, if we support MicroPython, then it actually is a really good channel medium to ship MicroPython application to devices. So you can hop on a Piscript.com project, write your code in MicroPython, and then just flash the device with that code without installing anything on your system. You just plug in a Lego robot or anything like this. It ships, it installs there, and it just runs. Pretty cool. And there's a really wide range of applications like we just mentioned. You know, Distributing Python is now very easy. It's just a link that you can run. And apps as packages is another side effect that we didn't think about. We realized that with Piscript.com apps, if we figure out the core's limitations and all the web security things, you can actually say, oh, I want to use this package from this Piscript app there, and this other one from another application there, and you have a third application that just consumes them, pretty much like packaging in an express way. And again, distributed architectures are very interesting when it's possible. You know, one thing that is very important, compute. Compute is one of the most expensive things and most annoying things to do when you have we need to scale, right? Well, now your Python code is not running on the server anymore. It's running on the client. That means if you have 1 user, 10 users, 100,000 users, or 10 million users, your cost on compute is pretty much the same, right? As a use case, Piscript.com and EduBlox, which is another project at Anaconda that uses Piscript under the hood, we serve around from 1.5 to 2 million projects a month. And the bill for that project, for those combined, is probably less than you go out with dinner with me, right? I drink and eat, I like my things, but very cheap, right? So the budget for my PyCon beer tonight is going to be times more than our bill, which is pretty cool. Again, reduced costs. Scalability hack. As you grow from an idea to production and then production to scale, you have to deal with, well, I didn't really design my thing for 100,000 users. Well, at least on the compute side and other things like that, it comes for free, right? You still have other aspects like database, storage, persistency that you need to think about, but on that, it's pretty cool. There's an additional security layer that we just talked about. And overall, simple is better, right? If you have your Python code, you just ship with it. You don't have to think about my JavaScript code running on the front end, my Python code running on the server, connection network, errors, attacks, and things like this. Pretty much like, you know, the JavaScript world have been enjoying, you know, being the only one in the browser until now. And it's not that it's all rainbows and unicorns. You still have complexity, but it's shifted to the browser to one place only, right? So now you have a problem instead of 10 problems. And it also comes with challenges. Bandwidth is a problem. If you have bad network or your older phone, et cetera, you have to deal with it. There are some things you can do. For instance, use MicroPython instead of Pyodide to load fast. MicroPython is how much? Like 100K? 170K. Perfect, like loads very fast. And if you need full Python, you can actually run MicroPython on a worker, load your UI, do your thing, while the full Python is loading on the side. You can use workers for that. Maturity, yes, we are still a young project, but you can use FFI. And you can use JavaScript libraries that are been there for forever to compensate for the maturity, the lack of maturity on the Python on the browser ecosystem. Also, the system, the ecosystem is catching up very quickly, and Pyodide has been supporting more and more libraries on the client side, etc., which is pretty cool. Another problem is now that we are on the web problems are now your problems as well. Well, yeah, deal with that. There's no solution. And well, just hope that the JavaScript ecosystem fixes them for us, and then we borrow, or vice versa. And not all projects are good fit, and that's just the way it is. If you have large data sets and things like this, well, maybe it can be a good thing, maybe not. We are actually currently just working on supporting FSSpec on Piscript, which means you can query data remotely as big as you want, like a terabyte of data sitting on an S3 bucket, and you can just query that data and get this chunk of data that you just want instead of downloading everything, etc. But still, prototype. You know, there's a lot of maturity to come with it. Study your pros and cons. Study the differences between standard Python and on the web. You know, persistency is also a problem. How do you connect to the database? How do you store files and stuff? There are solutions for those. that we will talk about. And then the security layer as well, where do you store passwords, secrets, API keys, and things like this? It's the same problem that JavaScript has. Well, if it's in the browser, it's basically in the open. So you need to deal with that. A bonus treat that just came out, that we'll talk about it in a bit, is PEP 750, which introduces T-strings to Python. Thanks, Andrea, for helping that, actually. Insider intruder from the JavaScript world to help us understand the best way to introduce them. A great PEP with Guido, Paul Everett, and a bunch of other, Jim Baker, and a bunch of other great people that is landing that will allow us to do really, really cool things like server-side rendering, shipping Python code from the server side to the client side, etc., which I'm very excited about. I haven't seen any hand gestures, so I assume the speed is okay. Just making sure. Thank you. So where do you start? This is the landing page for Piscript open source. This is the project. One of the cool things about actually running Python in the browser is that you can actually play with iframes. So, you know, something like this, you can have an interactive, no, okay, anyway. Sorry. But I want to stress out some calls out. Join the community, join the newsletter, you know, and get involved in the project. We really want more users. We really want to help the community. So your feedback is very important. How do you start with Piscript? If you just want to start from the open source project, you can just open your editor, create an index.pod HTML file, and add those 2 lines to it. So you import your CSS, import your JavaScript, Python, Piscript JS, core.js library, and then, okay, sorry, fat fingers. And then you just bootstrap. You say, okay, I want a new interpreter of type MicroPython in this case, with this configuration file where you can set your dependencies, you can set a bunch of other things, and then you say bootstrap my project from this main.py, and it will basically do something like this. It will load your HTML file, it will load the JavaScript library, that will make render available. So is that not great English? Sorry. It allow you to specify a new script type, Py, where you can basically do what I mentioned before, and this will start a new Python interpreter that is based on WASM. And with this command here, you set up your environment, your file system, everything running on top of WASM, and then you can just run Python. You can also spin up as many of these as you want using workers, and then make them communicate between them, etc., etc., etc. So you can see now how you can actually use MicroPython to load very fast, load your UI, load your things in the browser while the bigger and slower Pyodide interpreter is loading. And now you can have access to your NumPy, your SciPy, all the bigger libraries that you want to use, you know, Pydantic, blah, blah, blah. But really, the best way to start with Piscript is to go to Piscript.com. That will, if the network allows, basically offer you a really quick and easy way to start a new project. So shipping a new Hello World project is as simple as clicking this. We are going to spin up everything for you already, which is honestly very simple. It's just a static web server with a Python file there, and this is the app that you have running. And if you want to share it, actually, wrong button, you just do this, and now you have a QR code. And if you want to, just share with someone, you can take a picture and share the QR code. It's running right there. Can get faster than this. Let me go back. Features. Actually, not talk about features. Let's talk about use cases. Okay. So first one, all cool, but really, how do you work with complex applications where you have actually, I will live here for a second if you want to scan this QR code. This is a to-do application that has actually authorization and authentication built on top of it, and has a storage also built on top of it, on top of Firebase. So this actually is a persistent to-do app and allows you to log in, to register, and to save users' information. Each one of them actually separate by user. It's a multi-tenant type of architecture. So going back to the wrong one. So in this, I will log in real quick. Geez. Okay, cool. And now it should load my previous list, and I can add items here and things like this, etc. If you are doing this, you should see a different list, etc. Pretty cool, pretty simple. This was actually generated with AI on a single shot. The prompt was pretty much create a Piscript app using Firebase as a Piscript to-do app with Firebase as a backend framework, etc. All we had to do, this, to be honest, it was probably at the 5th trial or something like this. Prompts and AI are unpredictable, but the main thing we had to change was this, passing your API key, domain, and all of this. And you'll be like, well, you said earlier that you don't want to expose your secrets and things like this. Why are you having this in the open? Great question. Because Firebase actually is built for that, and those are public keys that you can just share anywhere. We at Piscript.com have a different mechanism that I'll show you in a second, but this is really the bulk of it. And I'm not going to go through the whole app, but it's pretty intuitive. There's a UI file where you define all your UI components and everything else. There's the main entry point of the app where we define this and just do configuration bootstrapping stuff, and we start the app itself. And then DB and Firebase are pretty much boilerplate code to create the artifacts that we have in here. And we subscribe or not to some specific events that are happening on the Firebase side. And then you have the app itself, which holds the logic of this app. This app wasn't done by me, was a colleague of mine, Martin Chilvers, but I thank you so much for doing this. And that's pretty simple. Like, for the amount of value that you have as shipping an application that is full-blown like this is a pretty small amount of code. And you haven't had to think about maintaining a database, persistency, storage, et cetera, et cetera. Now I'm going to go to another example. Everybody talk about AI, LLMs, and all of those things. One thing that we learned actually is that Piscript is actually a great glue layer for AI applications. You can access AI pretty much with most vendors or open source projects, but from the programmer side of view, it's basically just an API that I can hit somewhere and ask questions and it returns something. Well, Piscript is pretty easy, cheap, and lean to do that. This is actually a special project which AI is running on your browser using WebLLM, which is a cool project that is based on JavaScript that loads the LLMs in the browser itself. So I don't need to hit any API or anything like this. And if I actually would disconnect my network, it will still run. And it just works pretty fast. Chrome also, not many people know about this. Chrome ships with Gemini Nano version that you can just hit as part of the Chrome APIs without any network or anything like this. This is another use case where you can create AI-powered applications with Piscript in a very lean and a very fast way. Let's see the code for this. How much time do we still have? 15, I think. 10. Okay. All right. We'll get back to this in a second. I want to save some time. Okay. So T-strings. This is a really cool example that I'm really excited about. Load, please. Okay. No, I have another. This one. So this is a Python application running on the browser, but mostly because we have a new build of Python that actually ships T-strings. T-strings are not available yet. They're going to come in the next Python version. Kudai was kind enough to build a PyCon version of this. So imagine this is a server side. This is not running on your browser. It's running on the server side. And it's rendering everything server side and then shipping to the browser, okay? So in this case, it's a simple Piscript application as usual. You just load Piscript with these commands, and then you just have a server.py. Imagine this is pretty much like HTMX, hitting a server that does its thing and then ship the results back, okay? So in this case, this is a server-side part, and template strings, the difference between template strings and format strings, like now, is that template strings keep your objects the whole life cycle of the template strings, differently from the format strings that render to strings right away, as soon as you pass, right, the object, which is pretty cool because I can maintain reference and then render things later. So in this case, focus on this, and if you know React, if you've used React, this feels pretty much familiar. I'm importing this object counter here from this module, and it's just a Python object. In this case, it's a function with a closure inside. And if it loads, I will show you. Well, just trust me, I'll get back in a second. And it's using that object, passing this argument here, and this is actually going from server, getting serialized, and then shipped to the browser as a string, and then deserialized on the browser with those deal loads and save. I don't think that's the name, but anyway. And it renders in the browser as this component here, which is reactive. So if I click here, you have the reactivity here. The same thing with this other use here, where I'm starting from 1, pretty much here. In this case, we're showing that actually, if I pass the object as a string, it does the right thing and actually escapes correctly. So you're seeing the correct string here, and not the weird characters thing that you usually see. Still loading. You have the links on the slides, so check out the code. Sorry for having to run. Next one, gaming. You can actually do really cool games with Piscript. This is an entry from Lucas Langa at the PyWeek contest a month or 2 ago. And this is actually, I would suggest you QR code this because it's a pretty cool game, pretty fun 3D game. And I will give you 5 seconds to do it because I'm running. Cool. Changing 1, 2, 3. And this is the game. And basically you have to click on top of it as you get close to the color. Otherwise it becomes red and you start losing your health, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, pretty cool. All the code is there if you want to check with the link that you just scanned. Lucas has been doing some really cool, amazing projects with Piscript, and we're really happy to support it, right? Bonus fun, which I forgot which ones are. Oh, yes. Another cool series of projects from Lucas. He's been doing this January thing where during the month of January, every day he would do art generation with Piscript. These are the, no, come on. Okay, they were really cool. I will reload and see if we can see in a second, but in the meantime, I'll skip to the next one. This is a bummer. Okay, the next one is actually something that we are planning on adding to Piscript. Okay, here. So next release of Piscript.com. This is the dev framework environment, etc. And we're planning on actually helping users with AI to create their applications. So if you have, if you want to create a new application and ask your AI or something to help you create them. Let's see. Actually, get off the network. Joking. Well, I will talk through it, and hopefully it will load. So when you create a new project, we prompt you with a prompt asking you what kind of application you want to do. And if you type, I don't know, I typed earlier, I made an example. I want to create a Piscript app that, actually I still have the prompt here. Assistant. Oh no, didn't load. Anyway, my prompt was pretty much create a Piscript app that has a click for party button. And when it's clicked, it pops a message to display a dialogue saying, welcome to the party or something like this. This is the application that it generated, basically. Pretty much on top of it. And, you know, because Piscript is very lightweight, it turns out it's actually a great use case to generate applications with AI and ship them directly. Recently, Claude and OpenAI, ChatGPT have been making great progress in loading their, being up to date. So if you try with them, actually those things work. But I would say stay tuned or stay on top of following the project, because we are going to add a lot of those things where we want to help users create their apps and their value they want to get to with AI without having to, accelerating their workflow, not replacing anyone or things like this. Unfortunately, the network is not helping, but for actually having the full presentation in Python in the browser, that's pretty much cool. And that's it. Thank you so much for coming. And questions?
Thank you, Fabio, for this really nice update on the state of the project. And we have quite a few questions. Sorry. Getting older. Python packages often leverage external native system libraries rather than reinventing from scratch. How do you use such packages without system access? Is the catalog of Piscript ready packages available?
Mm-hmm. That's a great question. I'm so happy I gave the presentation before this. Now it's not even loading. Okay. So this is one of the problems with Piscript. If you don't have a network, it doesn't work. So to the question. Most pure Python packages just work, and you can install them from PyPI. You can actually just install for Pyodide. You can just install any will, and it will just work. Packages with C dependencies or other type of external dependencies. There's a bunch of them available on Pyodide, and Pyodide has a build set of instructions where you can build them for Pyodide and add to the interpreter. It will require manual work. It will require work, especially for complex packages, but there is a possibility to do that. Especially the ones for the scientific stack have been really catching up. So I would suggest looking at the Pyodide supported packages. Around packages as well, there's another nice thing, which is you can, if you have Piscript apps, as I mentioned earlier, if you have Piscript apps with Python files, if they are sitting on top of Piscript.com, you can just link the other app and use as package, which is a thing that you cannot do with Python, standard Python. And it's pretty cool, because all you need really is just the files, and they can move over HTTP. So that's an interesting use case.
Thank you. And can you elaborate more about the advantages of using Pyodine over MicroPython, or vice versa?
Yes. Which one is better? None of them. They are different things for different problems, right? So Pyodide is basically a full Python interpreter with most libraries and most supported packages. I forgot to mention earlier that packages that depend on things that are not available on the browser, in the browser, or not a thing in the browser, like sockets, like multiprocessing, like other things like this are not going to work because we're talking about two different things. But Pyodide is more powerful in terms of access to libraries and things like this. It's faster once loaded. Not too much, I think, but it's faster. But it's heavier. It's 8 megabytes-ish. And then you have to install things on top of it. If you install SciPy or NumPy, those are big packages, so you'll require time. You need to think about, you're shifting the problem, right? Usually, you install all of them in your CPython standard, you create your environment once, and then you ship to your customers. But that requires more time on the developer side. You're shifting the problem to the client side. So you get things faster as a developer, but you need to pay the price later. So if you have fast networks, not a problem. If you have slower networks, you can use MicroPython to spin up things fast and while Pyodide loads. When would you use MicroPython? Well, if you don't need none of those fancy packages or specific packages, MicroPython is very small. It basically it loads very quickly. So prioritize that if your application is mainly UI or mainly elements on the page, or you have simple logic.
And there is any problem with browser caching, especially for when developing?
Yes, but honestly, we haven't encountered a lot. Andrea has been doing a lot of great work to avoid those things, and we've been doing the same thing on the Piscript.com side. So for instance, when you saw the view in Piscript.com where you had the editor and the live application there, that has a different set of policies on caching than just your app, because iframes and other things. So yes, but I don't think anything more than you would have with your standard JavaScript applications.
And now regarding browser support, is IE6 supported?
No. Andrea, can you make it happen?
Will it ever be?
In 2 days. Usually that's what happens. Oh, we want to do this, and Andrea's like, oh my God, no, why? And then 2 hours later, I had an idea. So anyway, sorry. He's going to spend the weekend on this anyway.
Okay. And how would you prevent or deal with WASM blocking code?
WASM blocking code. Well, this is more like, exactly. It's more, Andrea, do you want to take this one?
So in workers, it never blocks the main thread, which is the contract you have to respect on the web. So whatever you do in the workers, even if there are APIs like time.sleep, that just works, and it doesn't block the main thread. And you can use Python in a synchronous way, the same way you will do on the server. It works only for example, for network requests, because you can use behind the scene blocking XHR request, and so pretty much seamless experience from a worker. From the main thread, probably the time sleep is gonna just block the entire thing, so you don't want to do that. And the approach that Fabio suggested before, like use MicroPython to drive the UI and add listeners or deal with it, and workers to bring in more complex logic. And you will be surprised that even blocking tasks you don't see those blocking at all on the web.
Yeah, but it's more like a web blocking, a JavaScript, like any blocking. It's less a WASM blocking thing.
And I think you already answered, but running Jupyter, is possible to run Jupyter notebooks in the browser?
It is possible. There's a project called Jupyter Lite that is basically that. You can, if you really want the Jupyter experience, you should use that probably. You can simulate some of those things with Piscript, with the PyEditor that we have, which is an element that creates an editor where you can type in things and execute things in the cell, and it shows the results in the bottom. It's not as powerful. We're not trying to compete with Jupyter Lite right now or anything like this. But yes, you do have some options.
Thank you very much. The time for the talk is over, and feel free to.
Thank you.
talk to Fabio later.